Hi there, it is Wednesday, which means it is Q&A Wednesday, and of course I have a really great topic for you tonight. It's one that I've talked about before, but apparently it needs to be talked about frequently. So I know that sometimes, we hear things, and I just seem to be getting the same questions over and over and over again, and really always the same surprised faces when I tell them how science really works. So I find it quite fascinating. But anyway, so tonight's topic is about how many calories should I be eating, and of course I being you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But first of all, happy December. Like I said, I can't even believe that it's here. My son this morning, Mom, it's taking so long to get to Christmas. Don't make it come any faster than it already is. I'm already struggling to be done and ready for it as it is. So anyway, it's exciting. It's very, very cold out. I don't know how it is where you live, but I am struggling to want to go outside. And the next person that mentions, I wish it would snow, I might throw something at you because I'm not ready for that. I don't know about you, but whenever it starts to snow here, I swear to you, all the stupids come out and pretend to drive. I don't know what's going on, but just absolutely drives me bonkers. So anyway, let's get to the topic tonight. I find it fascinating when I start talking to people and they're really struggling to see any results with what they're doing, or a lot of times it's people who have done really great so far. Maybe they started and they've hit a goal, they've lost some weight. Again, you know how I feel about that term, but they might have hit a plateau and they're just not quite sure what to do. And there's so many misconceptions out there. My biggest frustration, honestly, is the information that's out there. So much of it is garbage, to be honest. And of course, media perpetuates that because they want you to buy their garbage as well. So I want you to look at things as they really are. And the first thing is, remember that everybody's different, and what works for one person isn't going to work for everybody. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Way back when I was struggling to figure it out, for me, it was more about education. I just didn't understand that there were so many things that played into health and wellness. I'd go every day and I'd slink into the gym in my baggy clothes because I was so embarrassed, and I would do my 30 minutes of cardio and I would slink back out and could not figure out why my body never changed. And I didn't understand that we have to change things on multiple levels. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. And I really didn't change much when it came to my health and nutrition. So just taking that into perspective, I've learned over the last 8-9 years so much about nutrition and how large of a role that it really does play in our health and wellness, as well as the goals that a lot of us tend to have. And of course, right now we're looking at New Year's resolutions coming up. Really hate New Year's resolutions. I just do. I find that they're very short term, very easy to kind of break away from your commitment once you realize that it takes more than you originally thought that it would. Or, a lot of people get in there, take up my gym, get on my equipment, text and make me mad. And for 3 months, they put everything into it and then think that they can turn around and go back to what they were doing before and that the results should stay. And it just doesn't work that way. So keep in mind that, anytime's a good time to get started, but just remember, it has to be a lifestyle. It has to be something you create. Whatever it takes to get to your goal, if you want to maintain that, you have to be willing to do that for the rest of your life. So, cutting out pizza and sugar and garbage for 3 months, getting to your goal and then expecting that you can go back to those old habits is just not going to work for you. So just keep that in mind. And I'm all about being realistic. So that's the name of the game for me. When somebody has a very short-term goal and thinks that they can accomplish something in a really unhealthy way, I actually have refused to take people on as clients. So I'm all about, it's not how quickly you can take it off, it's how long can you keep it off, how long can you stay at your goal. So let's talk about how many calories are necessary. So first of all, again, there is no specific guideline that says if you are this height and this size in a woman, you should eat 2,000 calories. I find that information is so ridiculously stupid because, hey, Olivia, because nobody's the same height. Nobody's the same. I mean, yeah, we might be the same age, but I don't look like her. I don't look like her. And I actually have more muscle than most everybody in the room. So what I can eat and what you can eat can be two totally different things. So first of all, it really depends on your goal. I work with guys. I was going to say gentlemen, but I don't know if everybody that I work with is a gentleman. I work with some guys who really want to put on some size and put on some weight. Totally different ball game than a lot of the women that I work with, who of course either want to lose weight, which again, I hate that term. It's not about losing weight, it's about losing fat. and so their goals are just completely different. And of course, just being different genders, that alone is going to make a huge difference in the type of calories that you can eat. So I do have some tips as we get towards the end of this, so stay tuned for that. But the first thing, I want to kind of talk about some myths that, absolutely drives me bonkers. I work with a lot of people, and the first thing that I do is sit down and have kind of an assessment of what their goals are and where they're going and what they're currently doing. And I find it really interesting that, as I kind of lay out their current formula or what they're doing to accomplish their goal, there's a lot of things that are similar. And the big one is most people are not eating enough food because somewhere in the industry of whatever, I would say health and wellness, but it's not health and wellness promoting it. It's all the big food companies that want to sell you garbage. We've come to the conclusion if we want to lose weight, we should all eat 1,200 calories, which is absolutely ridiculous. If you think about the average person, let me give you an example. I'll use myself as the example. When I was 210 pounds and wanting to lose weight, I actually was eating 2,400 calories and still losing pounds. Okay, so for someone who comes to me and they're 190, 200 pounds and they're only eating 1,200 calories and they've stalled or plateaued, my first comment is you're just not eating enough food. When you are a certain weight, height, certain metabolism, if you don't stoke the fire, if you don't feed it, your metabolism does drop. The smaller the car, the smaller the gas tank. When I was going from a woman of 210 pounds to a woman of where I'm at now, which is about 130, 135, I don't need 2,400 calories right now unless I'm trying to grow extra muscle. So if I would have just dropped to 1,200 calories right away and stayed there, what happened when I dropped 80 pounds? I can't go from eating less than 1,200 calories. That's ridiculous. Not only that, it's not even remotely healthy. So you have to kind of factor in several things. And I'm going to give you an easier option, but things that we talk about when we look at how many calories you should be eating are things like your resting metabolic rate, which is how many calories do you burn if you don't even get out of bed? You do burn calories because your heart still has to beat, your brain still has to function, your nervous system still has to fire. So you will actually burn a certain amount of calories just functioning throughout the day. Then, of course, add on top of that your activity level. So if you tend to be a little more sedentary, obviously you're not going to need as many calories as somebody who goes to the gym every day or who's preparing to run a marathon. It's a totally different ball game there. So the easiest way to figure this out, to be honest, is to actually look at using something like a Fitbit. Now, it's not perfect, and honestly, I don't even care what brand you use, but anything that gives you a general idea of how many calories you burn in a day, because it's not how many calories you eat necessarily, it's how many calories do you burn. And we'll go back to that in a second. But if you take into consideration, one of the things, the theories that people talk about is the energy in versus energy out, which is, again, this is approximate, but 3,500 calories supposedly equals 1 pound of fat. Now, how you can tell your body burn fat, not muscle, that's a whole other ball game. But again, it also, there's times when a calorie isn't always a calorie. So that's a hard one to kind of pin down, but the thought is there, right? If you want to lose weight or burn fat, you should actually eat less calories than you burn, right? And vice versa is true. If you're trying to gain weight, if you're trying to put on some muscle, some size, you should technically eat more calories than you burn. Now, that is not permission to have a free-for-all and eat lots of pizza, because of course, if you eat junk and processed food, those calories, no matter if you're trying to gain weight or even if you're trying to lose weight, because it will actually stop your body from doing exactly what it needs to do, because your body treats that processed food a whole lot different than it treats whole, clean food. So keep that in mind, that you might be able to lose weight on pizza, but it's still going to show one way or another. Yeah, that's what some of that lovely thing is on the back of ladies' legs. It's called cellulite. So, quality of calories really does matter. You can't just assume that you can eat anything. We talk a lot about macros. You've heard the whole if it fits your macros, which I actually to an extent like, as long as people aren't using that as an excuse. Well, hey, ice cream fits my macros. Yeah, but it still contains a ton of sugar. So, okay, so Heather has a question. Oh, bless your heart, because I know you just had a baby, honey, and you are so adorable. I just want to tell you. Okay, so she's saying, what about breastfeeding? I know that it is a whole other ball game, but actually, so your body does actually need more calories because, of course, you are supporting your baby by actually producing breast milk. So there is still a guideline for that. They do say that about 500 calories a day more, that a breastfeeding woman should eat about 500 calories a day more than someone who is not. So keep in mind, it still has to be good calories. You can still pay attention to how many calories you burn as well. I think that the same kind of thing goes for whether a woman is breastfeeding or not. That you still got to look at your caloric needs in a day. And if you pay attention to how many you burn, and again, you can guesstimate that. There are ways to do that. There's apps. Even MyFitnessPal will kind of help you guesstimate that. But really, like I said, even though a Fitbit or a tracker isn't perfect, it's going to give you more of a good number as to how much you burn so that you can pay attention to that. So keep in mind that I already know that my average burn in a day, and this is just average, is about 2,200 calories, according to my Fitbit. Sometimes it's not super accurate, especially when I'm doing cardio and it's telling my heart rate is not where I think it is, or where I can tell it is. But it at least is going to give me a good idea. So 2,200 calories. So I know pretty much that if I pay attention to that and I run at a deficit of calories, now not a big deficit, we're going to talk about that in a second. If I run at a deficit of calories and I'm eating the right kind of food, if I'm not eating a bunch of crap, because let me just tell you, my body will tell me the next day if I've had sugar. I can see it, I can feel it, I retain more water, and it definitely shows up in multiple ways in my body because number one, I eat super, super clean on a regular basis. And number two, I'm so lean that I can't get away with eating a whole lot of sugar for very long. My body will show me that. So I know that if in general I'm eating right and I'm staying at a deficit of calories to a certain extent, I should be technically not necessarily losing weight, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm actually up 5 pounds this week, but I'm down in body fat. And I know it's because I'm actually putting muscle on. So again, you kind of have to look at it for what it's worth, and make sure that you're paying attention to the right things. The scale will not always tell you if you're going the right direction because muscle weighs more than fat. Okay, so fat takes more space. Sometimes I actually have to ask my clients, do you want to weigh less or do you want to be smaller? Because they don't always go together. If you look at my pictures from, it would have been about 2000, what did I decide? 2011-ish. The first time that I came back down and hit 130 pounds, I was a size 6. Now when I'm 130 pounds, I'm a size 2-4. It's a totally different ball game. Same weight, my body is just different. So keep that in mind. So Heather, to answer your question, you can still pay attention and you can still burn off some of that excess baby fat. It might take you a little bit longer, but you really do have to pay attention to making sure that you are getting all of your nutrients in, because your body will not, especially when women are pregnant, your body will immediately take all those extra nutrients that the baby needs as you're growing a baby, and it will give it to them. It will make sure that you are missing out, not the baby. The baby is the priority. Now that you are back to being the priority again, you just want to make sure that your breast milk is as healthy as it possibly can be, that you're giving the baby all those nutrients and the vitamins and minerals that it needs, and eat as healthy as possible. But you can still pay attention to your food and still very slowly, realistically, and in a healthy way, start to drop the weight or burn the fat. So for some people it's easier, for some people it's very difficult. There is no right or wrong. Everybody's just different. It's hard to give a good guideline for that. So Cecilia wants to know, what do you think about intermittent fasting? I'm not a fan. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan. I find that the rules to intermittent fasting are pretty strict, and that most people that I know that try it, one of a couple things happens. Number one, they can't get all their calories in the amount of time. You're welcome, honey. You're welcome, Heather. Most people can't get their calories in the amount of time that's allotted them to whatever their time frame is. Again, there's no one intermittent fasting diet, rule, whatever you want to call it. I find that a lot of people tend to do it and just want to follow their own rules, and it doesn't work that way. The other thing that I find is very few people continue on with intermittent fasting for a long commitment, and so what ends up happening is when they stop and they go off the intermittent fasting, their body gains everything right back. Same thing with keto, guys. I'm not a fan of any certain specific diet. You have to figure out what works best for you, and it should be reasonable, and it shouldn't cut out nutrients that you need. Carbs are not bad. Crap is bad. Stop eating the crap. right? There's a huge difference between a Pop-Tart and an apple. They both contain simple sugars, but one's obviously more healthy and your body won't absorb it. It won't hit your system as fast as sugar because it contains fiber, which will slow down the rate of the absorption into your bloodstream. So, Cecilia, hopefully that helps. You know, anytime that you're looking at doing some sort of a diet, I really feel like you should do your homework. There's so many fads and there's so much garbage and BS out there because somebody's trying to sell you something. Guys, just eat cleaner. I mean, there's really not, it's not that difficult when it comes to the rules. It's simple. Eat whole, healthy food. Stop eating fast food. It's not healthy for you. Even the healthier choices in fast food are really not that healthy. And again, I'm going to come back to this and give you some more tips on that. Really quickly, before I get too far, I really want to talk about people who aren't eating enough. I've worked with several people that I've had to really work hard to fix their metabolisms before I could even train them. I know that it's mostly, it's in our heads, right? We hear this whole, if you want to lose weight, just eat 1,200 calories. I know people who eat less than 1,200 calories, and it floors me. And then they can't figure out why their body doesn't drop. They're thinking, okay, well, I'm eating less. Yeah, your body thinks you're starving, right? And if your body thinks you're starving, why would it drop fat? It believes it needs those stores in order to help you survive. Your body actually has two goals for you. Two goals that you don't even have to think about, you have no control over. The first one is your body wants to survive. That is number one. It will do everything that it has to. It will break down muscle as fuel, okay? If you're not eating enough, that is one of the things that will happen. Not only are you going to have a nutrient deficiency, usually in vitamins and things that you need, but you're also going to break down muscle for fuel. And muscle is not a bad thing. We're not talking about MMA monster. We're talking about, hey, guess what? I have some shape, and I have balance, and I have size, and I have energy, and I feel good, and I'm strong. That's pretty awesome. I always laugh when people say, I don't want to grow muscle, I just want to be toned. Toned to what? Fat doesn't have shape, guys. You have to have some muscle in order to have shape. So keep that in mind, that if you are not getting enough calories, your body will find a way to keep you alive. And part of that is breaking down your muscle and other things that you need. They've done research, of course, in the past. It sounds horrible, but when there's been famines or there's been starvation, to see how bodies break down. And of course, the two things that your body wants to preserve is your heart and your brain. So keep that in mind. The other thing, of course, I just lost my train of thought, but that happens a lot. So we're talking about, the other thing that your body wants to do is avoid pain. So again, topic for another day, but those are the two things that your body will do with or without your consciousness. So, you have to live healthy on purpose. And part of that is figuring out, what type of metabolism that you really do have and how to jumpstart it. Whenever I work with someone, when I do nutrition counseling, the first thing that I do when we increase their calories and we talk about their macros, we talk about it's going to take you at least 2 weeks, because their first comment is, well, what if I'm not hungry? Yeah, I understand that. But you have to teach your metabolism that you're going to feed it. And when you teach it, hey, I'm going to feed you, it's much more likely to actually burn off fat because it doesn't need it now. You're giving it enough food. So keep that in mind. Okay, so a couple of things that I want to talk about. I'm just looking at my notes here. We talked a little bit about plateaus and how, if you're not eating enough to start with, you will hit a point where your body just won't drop any more fat because you're already not eating enough. Quality of calories. So let's talk about quality of calories and macros really quick. So quality of calories should be easy, guys. If it's processed food, a calorie is not always a calorie. When it's a processed food, it's already broken down. That's why it's called processed. So your body actually absorbs more of it because it's in a form that it can absorb from. Now, unfortunately, most of the time, it's not the healthiest of nutrients because a lot of us eat a lot of garbage. When it's whole food, your body can't absorb as much because it has things in the way like fiber. It's way more nutrient dense. Your body has to work so much harder to break it down. So not only is it a healthier option, you're getting better, more nutrients from it, but your body has to work harder just to break it down in the first place. So yeah, it's totally different. Quality of calories matters. If you just focus on calories in, calories out, you're doing yourself a disservice because the quality of calories matter, as do macros. The macronutrients do different things. And for those of you who haven't heard of macros, most of us have, but I still know a few people who have to ask questions, and that's okay. The macronutrients are protein, fats, and carbohydrates, right? And each of those nutrients do different things. And that's why we need each of them. Now, here's the deal. If you have too many of any one of them, your body might not function as well as you need it to. So again, personally, not a huge fan of keto diets. I find that you're missing out on some of the nutrients that complex carbs can provide you. Now, do I know people successful on it? Absolutely. Are there researched values for it? Absolutely. They've done research where people with some sort of I can't even think of the word today. Something to do with the nervous system that people have found, especially children with nervous issues, not nervous like being nervous, but nervous system issues, have actually done very, very well on keto diets. But again, that's something very, very specific. You know, I understand if it jumpstarts your health process, but again, there's a benefit. Carbohydrates are your energy source. That's what they're for. Now, if you're trying to grow muscle and you are not providing your body carbohydrates, your body can take protein and turn it into glucose. The problem is now your body's not using the protein, which of course protein helps build and maintain muscle. Now your body's not using the protein to build muscle. It's using it for energy. So I don't know a whole lot of bodybuilders that actually grow during growth season on a keto style diet, at least without doing intense refeeds. So again, that just tells you something. And of course, fat is necessary. Back in the 90s, when I remember, thinking diets back then, yes, I'm old enough, they came out with this whole baloney system about fat causes fat. Not really. Junk causes fat, or an overabundance of any nutrient can cause fat. But fats are necessary. Healthy fats help all your systems process. It helps your body break down the nutrients and utilize them correctly. It also benefits every hormone system in your body. So those things are all necessary. It comes down to the good options or the clean options versus the not so great options. And of course, your body's going to function much better on whole food and the cleaner options. I mean, that's just a given. So stop looking for the loopholes. Eating some ice cream once in a while is not a big deal. Eating pints and pints and pints of ice cream because it says protein ice cream is garbage, guys. Stop looking for the loopholes. It just doesn't work that way. I don't know, was it last year or the year before, I heard about the gentleman that supposedly lost all this weight on eating McDonald's food every day. And it was like unhealthy stuff too. It wasn't like the salads. It was like the hamburgers and fries. And I thought, well, yeah, if you eat at a deficit, you can lose a certain amount of weight. But you check that guy's heart and his liver, yeah, and then we'll have a conversation, because I dare say, I don't care if he's lost weight on it, but he obviously has no muscle left and his arteries are going to be one heck of a clogged mess. So again, there is no easy way around it. There's no shortcut. You can try and cheat, but it ain't going to work. You can't fool science. It's going to work the way that it's supposed to work. So again, your body does need all the macros, all the different macronutrients, as well as the micros, which are your vitamins, your minerals, things like that, in order to perform best. You cannot out-supplement a bad diet. You cannot out-exercise a bad diet. It will show up in one form or another. Now, when it comes to, well, how many macros of this or how many macros of that, what should my percentages be? Again, it depends on your goals. For somebody who is getting ready to run a marathon, they obviously need more carbs because their body needs the fuel source, the energy level. So for somebody who's trying to build muscle, now for somebody who's trying to lean out from building the muscle is a little bit different ballgame than somebody who's trying to grow muscle. All of those are different formulas, and everybody's different. So, there's some guidelines and things that we can talk about, but it's not going to be the same for everybody. So again, there is no one way for somebody to say, well, I'm a girl and I'm this, and so I should be eating this many calories. No, it isn't about that. It's how many calories do you burn and what is your goal, right? I guess it could be fairly simple. We just tend to always want to take the cheat, easy way out. And then there's so much noise that media is spouting, plus all of the now experts all over social media doing all this garbage and sticking their heinies out and taking pictures, that nobody can hear the actual truth. It's just, give me another month. In January, I start throwing things at my TV because I cannot stand the commercials. It just drives me bonkers. I won't even go there right now. So couple of tips for, figuring out how many calories. We kind of talked about the best way to do that. If you have more questions, you can contact me directly. But if you want to be healthier, if you want to feel better, clean up your food, clean up your diet. It's not that difficult. You're not going to get to be amazing or get to your goal or feel great by eating a bunch of fast food. It just doesn't work that way. Stop eating out. To be honest, I can eat out once in a while. It's going to usually be a sit-down restaurant that gives me options that I can ask specifically for things to be cooked a certain way. I don't ever do fast food, ever at this point. Like, not even for a cheat meal, because if I have to work it off, it better taste good. And to me, fast food doesn't taste good anymore. It just doesn't. If I'm going to have a meal, I want it to taste amazing. That's just kind of how it rolls. And half the time, I'm just going to cook it myself. So eat enough. Make sure that you are eating enough. Again, if you are a girl and weigh 180 pounds and you're eating 1,200 calories, you are doing yourself a disservice. You will not get where you want to go. Your body will just think you're starving, okay? You can't tell it, hey, I'm on a diet. It doesn't listen, right? Talk about stop looking for loopholes, and definitely stop looking at the gimmicks. You guys, I don't care if the cookie says it's a protein cookie, it still contains sugar. Pay attention to those labels. It just drives me crazy. Well, because, this company makes it, so it should be healthy. Guys, the FDA does not regulate supplements. The company that makes it does. It's kind of a catch-22 because you don't know if the company is lying to you. I mean, they could be. You don't know. Nobody's checking them. So you got to really pay attention to what you're putting in your system. If you don't know what's in it, don't eat it. And don't fool yourself. A protein bar and a protein cookie and protein ice cream is still processed food, and it still contains sugar. It might contain less sugar than the full strength thing, but it doesn't give you the opportunity to eat now 3 times the amount. And definitely stop listening to social media. I do follow some trainers and some coaches on YouTube, but I am very picky. I don't just listen to any, hey, that move looks really cool. Oh, and she has a booty, so it must work. I've tried a few of those and gone, okay, I don't know what the hell she thinks she's getting out of that because that's ridiculous. I don't feel it. As a matter of fact, here's how someone can hurt themselves. So stop listening to everybody. Just because they can promote themselves on social media does not make them an expert. I'm not even a full-on expert. I've just done enough research. I'm trying to tell you, do your research so you know what you're talking about and what they're talking about. There are trainers and coaches who actually know their stuff. You just got to know. First of all, I always look to make sure that they either, what's their education? I want them to explain what they're talking about. Yes, that's a great exercise. Why are they doing it? And why are they doing it that way? And why are they doing it with or without weight? Versus, okay, that dude's like a bro, so I should totally check him out because he lifts weights and he has muscle. Who the hell cares? He probably has a coach telling him what to do. So I want to know that where I'm getting my information has some validity. It's not just, cute girls and their little booty shorts sticking their butts out. I don't even care. You have no message for me. Why would I listen to you? I'm not. So keep that in mind. So again, if you have any more questions to that, feel free to leave a message below. You can also email me at melissa@fillmorefitness.com. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about how to set good New Year's resolution goals. I got some really great tips for you, how to be successful at it and not do the same thing that most of us do year in and year out every year. That I think they say the average person that sticks with their New Year's resolution goal is 3 weeks and then they give up. So let's teach you how to not do that. Anyway, have an incredible night, you guys, and we'll see you next week.